First part for the new computer build has arrived. It is an NF820 Noctua fan, 200mm. It'll be going in the front of my case, and that'll all be explained in the following video.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Falcon's House. I finally started my PC upgrade project. This video series is going to be a little different than other PC build videos out there. I am going to focus a lot more on why I picked the parts that I did, instead of picking for a budget or picking the best possible parts. In addition, these videos are probably going to be on the channel a few weeks after I record, rather than just a few days, because of all the other content that I have scheduled to release. So for this video, I'm recording it in mid-August, but I don't expect it to actually be on the channel until early September. In addition, these videos are probably going to be split up into much smaller bits for each part or a couple parts, rather than it being just one giant video. The first part I want to talk about is the case. I'm using the Thermaltake Core X9 Snow Edition. This is being reused for my current build. This case was purchased prior to the scandal of them stealing case designs from Case Labs, and it is not a stolen design. It has a full 480mm fan option, which none of their Case Labs cases had. And this case has been discontinued, and the closest thing to it that I have been able to find is a Thermaltake Level 20 XT, which I think looks better, but it's going to have worse airflow because it has tempered glass side panels on both sides, and the front is not mesh, it is just a solid front, so it has fewer air intake spots. I really personally like horizontal motherboard layouts due to the fact that gravity is now helping push all the parts down, and you don't have GPU sag, or the CPU cooler isn't putting weight and pressure on the socket to pull it down. Whereas if it's vertical, it's just all the pressure is going into the motherboard tray and it is solid. If my channel was a little bit bigger, I could justify a custom case, and I think I have some ideas that could make a design like this a lot better. But the proto case or a similar thing is going to be a few $1,000s, and I just can't afford that with the current budget. So if you really want to see something like that, let's get some patrons going, let's get a lot of people over here, get me some ad revenue, and maybe we can do that project in the future. I have modified my case with casters, so instead of these normal feet that exist here, it's a caster which adds a little bit of height and keeps it way off the ground for my carpet so that there's actual airflow. And these casters are rated to 250 pounds for a corner, so it should basically be able to handle anything I throw at it. Like, most likely somewhere else in the case would break prior to the casters breaking. The case fans on this case are probably the biggest problem with it, as they do not really promote good airflow. And I believe that actually it is what caused my XMP profile in my memory to be unstable on my current build, and I'm forced to run the memory at stock speeds. The default fan layout is a 200mm RPM, a 200mm 800 RPM fan in the front of the case. It is up here, and it just blows air straight back across. Let's bring it up a little bit, but it just blows the air straight across. And if I put my hand here, I can't feel any sort of airflow, so the motherboard isn't really getting very much airflow. The other stock fan is this 120mm 1000 RPM fan that also doesn't seem to provide very much airflow. I can feel a little bit out the back, but I don't know how much it's actually sucking through for this fan here, because there's not much airflow coming up from here necessarily. Now, I currently have a 480mm radiator that is on the right side of the case, and those are all set to exhaust, so they pull the air out the top. And so with the combination of this, it probably is pulling a good decent amount of air, but maybe not all the way back to here. The air is probably coming up and then going straight out the top up here, and maybe less so out here or less so out here. And my new design is going to be adding a second 480mm radiator on the other side, but I'll talk about that in a different video where I explain why I chose the radiators that I did. So my first step to improve the airflow is to add a 200mm fan up here. This is supported by the motherboard, and I just have to remove these 5¼ inch bays. I mean, nobody really uses them anymore in a modern system, so it really doesn't matter. Just pull those out, and then I'll have another 200mm fan here. And this time I went with a Noctua fan, and there's a few reasons for that. One was that it was PWM, which allows me to have fan control from a fan controller, which allows it to spin down to as little as 350 RPM, which would cut the noise level about in half. And I can just simply tie that to system load or to temperature and increase it as necessary when more airflow is needed, but normally it can run at low speeds and it probably won't add very much noise at all because these large fans are very quiet and they do move a lot of air. The other part of it is that it moves about 15% more air than the stock Thermaltake fan does, even though they're the same size, which allows me to, which should promote better cooling. So one is it'll bring more fresh air directly to the radiators, and it should bring more air across the motherboard and memory and everything else. So that's my first step to trying to improve the cooling in this case. If for some reason that is still not enough airflow, I'll upgrade the exhaust fan to a 140mm PWM fan that'll allow me to pull a lot more air through, probably double, maybe even triple the amount of air can then get sucked back out, and that should force more air to go straight across. Should force more air up here and out the back. And then I'll take this fan here and move it to the lower chamber. If for some reason that still is not getting me good enough temperatures with all the stuff that's going to be going on in this new case, or this existing case with the new hardware, I will be adding, I'll flip this back panel to the other side, to the left side, and then I can put a 200mm fan up here, and I'll probably have to like hot glue it or use like adhesive or something to get it to stick. The other thing to mention is air pressure. There are two main types, negative and positive. Negative is where there is more exhaust airflow than intake, and positive is the opposite, where there's more intake air pressure than exhaust. Positive air pressure typically results in slightly less dust in the system. Due to the fan control of my radiators, they are doing very little exhaust at idle, giving the case positive air pressure at idle, but when they are spinning at full speed, it becomes negative air pressure, and so therefore it'll pull more air through the case and exhaust more out, which should help with the temperatures. There are some people that run the radiators as intakes to bring in cool air from the top. However, in this case, I don't think that is necessary, and I think I would have to flip this fan and flip these fans and push the air this way, which would blow all the hot air into me, which I wouldn't really want. In addition to that, I don't think these are getting that hot of air from if they're going through the case, because the fans are going to be right here blowing the hot air into them. It's not like it's all down here like it is currently. This will help a lot. This fan will help so much. And it's probably not worth the 1 or 2 degree difference that I could do with a full flip of the case, and it might not even help me, so it's not worth testing really. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. There will be more videos for the other parts coming.